27 minutes now after the hour. It looks like we got another 80-20 issue that Democrats are on the wrong side of. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer threatening to confront Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and demand he release the classified footage of a September military strike on a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean. But the tough-talking senator's threats seem to have fallen flat. Watch.
It was a very unsatisfying briefing. I asked Secretary Hegseth, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, would he let every member of Congress see the unedited videos of the September 2nd strike? His answer, we have to study it. Well, in my view, they've studied it long enough. Congress ought to be able to see it.
Same pattern over and over again. And speaking of tensions in the Caribbean, we just got brand new video of the U.S. seizing a tanker off the coast of Venezuela. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirming the crude oil tanker was used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Here's President Trump talking about it earlier today.
From the standpoint of news, as you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening, so you'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people.
I mean, guys, we have a lot to talk about here of substance because there's a lot going on, but aren't we seeing the signs again? Remember, they had to get Elon and Doge. They were nonstop. We got Doge. He's going to destroy the country. Then Epstein files. We got to get the Epstein files. Now we got to see the double tap strike from September 2nd. And they're going to keep on pounding it until Pete Hegseth shows the country that double tap strike. It's not that they're interested. They think they got something, as opposed to coming up with a policy to get Maduro out. Now, Greg, you have written a lot of foreign policy. You write for Foreign Policy magazine.
Yes.
Without pictures, which is very rarely for you to like a magazine without pictures. And your feeling on our policy in the region, are you happy the way this is developed?
I will be speaking on this before the Council on Foreign Relations next month in Geneva. I hope you do attend. If not, I'll try to get the notes to you after. Schumer is raging at his own failure. He just doesn't know that. Even the New York Times concedes this point. They didn't just drop the ball on illegal immigration. They handed the ball over to the millions coming in. And of the millions, there were thousands who were criminals. And they flocked here under this illusion of sanctuary cities, which was just an Airbnb for felons. They'll talk about, it's not about the policy, it's about the process. No, it's not. Their policy is to have no process. You couldn't get the Democrats to name a single illegal that they would deport. But then Trump wins, and now they go, well, okay, we understand now. But then what do? We spend, like, what, 6 weeks talking about the Maryland dad, who is a professional illegal alien. He's a felon. But you had Democrats fly to visit him in Central America. Again, that's not a process question. That shows you that their policy, their intentional policy, is to have open borders. They paused deportations. They killed the border wall. They suspended remain in Mexico. That's a policy. That is not an argument over process. So this course correction that we're seeing under Trump, it may seem harsh to people, and in some ways it feels harsh, but it would not have been necessary if you hadn't put us on this course. You screwed the pooch so badly, we can't let you near the dogs anymore.
So, Dana, what he has said, Greg doesn't have time to elaborate at this moment because he's out of time. But what he's trying to say is Joe Biden cut a deal with Maduro. And he said, hey, I'm going to send Chevron in there. We're going to be able to drill. We need your oil because I don't want to drill. Like, committed to this green energy policy. And then, of course, he just promised free and fair elections. He didn't have free and fair elections. The elections actually were free and fair, and he lost big time. And he stayed in power. So that is the mess that was handed over to Trump because he says, I can't tolerate this anymore because Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, China are all there, let alone Cuba.
Right, and so now he's got the region on its toes, and also if you think about what he's talking about, the Monroe Doctrine, going back using the Monroe Doctrine, and I actually have always believed that America has ignored our own hemisphere for too long, and you think about why do people all want to leave their countries and come to America? Because the governance there stinks, because the corruption stinks, it's terrible. So more focus on these countries is a good thing. And the first thing you have to do is deal with the security issue and the fact that they're bringing drugs into the country. I actually think that the Trump administration would rather talk about this than affordability. They'd rather talk about this than healthcare, because the Democrats are able to get headlines and make some headway because I think their policies are wrong, but they at least are able to talk about it. The Republicans get tongue-tied when they start talking about health care. They have good ideas, but they don't talk about them enough. This actually is probably something that's going to be like an 80-20 issue when you actually start to poll it. It's not that people are going to want to see the double tap strike. I understand Schumer thinks that, okay, if you see it, then all of a sudden you're going to think that it's wrong. I think that people will see, I don't actually want to see it. I don't want to watch videos like that, but I do want to trust people, either like the president or somebody like Tom Cotton, who's the Intel chairman on the Senate side, saying that he believes everything was on the up and up and that it needed to be done. I think that Schumer is, again, falling into a trap of talking about something that the Trump administration is quite happy to talk about.
Hey, Jesse, it's the 13th briefing that Pete Hegseth's been involved in. This time we had Radcliffe was there, as well as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So what do you mean they're not briefing? They don't know what's going on. How many briefings do you need to know what's going on?
They've seen the video.
Yeah.
And they went in there saying it was a war crime, and then they left saying, So the story's over. This is such a bigger story. This Coke boat thing's the appetizer. Trump just said expect land strikes in Latin America. Trump just said Maduro's days are numbered, and then he said Mexico and Colombia better watch out. We just had 2 U.S. jets violate Venezuelan airspace, and we're seizing oil tankers off their coast. This is much bigger than one strike against a vessel. This is a huge change in American foreign policy. We are the biggest superpower of the world, and we can project enormous power all over the world, but we don't do it in our own hemisphere. And as of now, that has changed. This is now a goal to dominate Latin America. They have mineral wealth, they have oil wealth, and we have Russia and China screwing around there. And the cartels are so out of control that it's causing mass migration into the United States, which brings guns, it brings drugs, and it lowers American wages. So it is connected to the economy, and it's connected to power politics. And this is just the beginning. I expect next year we're going to be talking about war down there.
Right, possibly, unless Maduro does a smart thing and leave.
And he should. Apparently, they have this great estate for him in the Middle East where he can just hang out with his girlfriends all day and eat lobster.
Right. I think
What's wrong with that?
What about a cul-de-sac?
Better than being dead.
What about a cul-de-sac in Russia next to Assad? I think it's very nice.
Warmer in the Middle East. But
Jessica,
okay.
Your thoughts about the Democratic stance in this moment? How do you think they should be approaching it?
Well, it's not just the Democratic stance. It's Chuck Schumer and Roger Wicker, who's the GOP chair of the Senate Armed Services Committee. It's Congressman, Republican as well, Mike Turner. It's Senator Rand Paul. There were lots of people who went into that briefing and came out with a diametrically opposed read on it than Senator Tom Cotton. Admiral Bradley, who testified, said that the boat wasn't headed to the U.S. That was part of the predicate for this strike, that it was coming here and it was bringing fentanyl. It was bringing cocaine to Suriname, so actually in the opposite direction. The 2 men who were killed were clinging to a piece of wood like they were on the Titanic, right? It was like Kate Winslet out there.
They weren't armed.
Okay, well, there are other people. Jim Himes as well said that. They didn't have any communications devices. They weren't armed, and there's no evidence that the cocaine survived.
Doesn't it sound like the Maryland Dad all over again?
But you know what? I do want to talk about the Maryland Dad.
Of course.
Because the Maryland Dad, you all sat here and you said you're out of your minds, right, for Chris Van Hollen going down there and you made up the fake story about the margaritas and whatever. And Democrats said, we want to talk about how people are treated who, first of all, have legal status. We want to talk about due process. And where did we go from there? We found out what the type of conditions are that people are being treated who were being improperly sent to CCOT, which we found out about American deals with Bukele, that we were actually forcing him to do this and wasn't comfortable with it.
No one cares.
We have found out now. You don't care, but Americans care.
Americans don't care.
They
country
do.
does not
Then why
care
is Donald
about a
Trump?
prison.
They care about their relatives dying from drugs.
Why is Donald Trump
They care
underwater
about their
on
jobs.
immigration
Not
now?
underwater, Jessica.
Yes,
don't
he
care
is.
about
you just
drug
don't like any
dealers.
polls that aren't
Did you
like.
know that the Coke boat strikes are the most popular foreign policy action that Donald Trump has taken?
Then run on it. No health care plan.
We will.
No affordability plan. We shoot random people in the Caribbean.
That's what I
We're
just, that was
coming
my
up
point.
with a health care plan.
Oh, I'll be waiting.
We'll have it
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay, I'll be waiting for that health care plan.
There's about 3, but they're all to fix Obamacare. Right. I know. Everyone, we are. Good luck. No one can do that. But they do have to do something on healthcare. I agree with you.
They're
on that.
riding on the
because
belief that you
Obamacare
can't
didn't
fix
work,
the
apparently.
problems they cause.
All right, guys.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.